Up the other day, and somebody informed me to listen to it, and I was listening to it, and I talked about this before, and it's about the overall sexualization of our children nowadays, young people nowadays in our schools, particularly in our schools. Obviously, it's a Marxist, Leninist, kind of agenda. It's obviously a leftist too kind of thing. But again, this is the country we live in. But it's relation to books too, and I said about this before, and I was actually going to talk about it because I've seen a few things been talked about. It's in libraries too. There's books in libraries in kids sections that shouldn't be in kids sections, and I've said about it many times. In Cavan that there should be books removed, and there has been some books removed, thankfully, that contain some sexual, too much sexual, in I suppose you could call contact for younger people. And obviously, I had listened to it. It was on for a good nearly an hour talking about it. There was parents ringing in, they were talking about it. And there was books, generally books. And I have to say, as a leaving social student, there wasn't many books that we read, and novels and things like that we read, that wouldn't sexualise. One book and told you that does strike me too. It was a few pages were very inappropriate, I will say that, but it wasn't that bad. I will say that in my experience of going through secondary school and national school. But to hear some of the things, like some teachers in some schools are so lefty and so up their own hole, I suppose, that they don't understand that this is overly sexualising young people. And they don't need to go, and some of the books are very, very inappropriate. It is kind of paedophilia, in other words, I need to go as far as saying. One book in particular I could hear, I heard about it before. There was talking about someone being raped. And you might be saying, it's probably in telling young people, to be wary and to always report it. It's describing the person who's raping the victim, and it's something, and again has been taught in one or two schools, and that's one of the books, and thankfully it's not widely available in wider society, as far as I know, because that's what I heard, and it's, and people might say that's an awful thing to be teaching. I think it might have been told you, as far as I remember, that's one book. And then there's other books too that are extremely inappropriate and shouldn't be taught in the school environment. They're not necessary. And indeed films, there's some films too that you have to do for leaving cert, that you will watch and things like that. And it's extremely inappropriate. And again, it's the way it's gone really now. And I'm sure people would say too that it's better to learn in the schools than in the back of the garden shed or whatever. But it's the overall sexualisation. We see them now in America and other countries bringing in drag queens and teaching young children. And again, I can't imagine when I was younger, I didn't even know my APCs, I might be totally honest with you. I couldn't imagine if a drag kid, I actually would probably run out of the building and probably cry. Because I would have been very shy, very nervous, very, very easy to upset young person when I was younger, when I was in juniors and seniors, and this is what they're doing in America, and it's probably sooner or later we're bringing it in here. They're brought it in some places in England, and obviously people stood up against that, because it's unacceptable to be going into young children and doing that, to be reading them stories in the drag queen outfit, and let's put it straight, and people might say that's a disgrace saying that, but again, it's about, these children will have, and I even think myself, I would probably cry, I probably would cry a night thinking about it, because I'd be so frightened. Again, I was frightened of very stupid things when I was younger. As children do. I'm sure people agree. As young children do, to be very frightened of things. And I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that somebody was small. And it's felt small and had basically didn't understand the world and been so confused. I would have been so confused. I might as well be totally honest with you. And then thrown it in here. School is for teaching kids about the maths, the ABCs. Teaching them about maths. Maths is very important. English is very important. It's very important to learn these subjects, these things that you will use in life. Bringing in drag queens and things like that's not going to do it. And I might say straight, because I can see them doing it in this country. They might as well maybe do it, because they're that off the block, the government here, and this number 41, this one's off a plot altogether. But again, this is the thing. There is overly sexualised things in our school, and we have heard of that. We'll say, I think the Irish Mirror done an article on it. I've only actually been aware of this now in the last few minutes, that they actually released an article on this question. I think it was the Irish Independent, the Irish Examiner. Either one of the two talking about it. And I do think it is young people, it's trying to influence young people. It's trying to influence them in the way of this. Because the way it's gone nowadays compared to years ago, it's all about OnlyFans and things like that, and it's all about sexualising young people. We see so many young people being involved in OnlyFans and things like that nowadays. And we see they're being encouraged in school, they're being encouraged about these things. I actually remember a few years ago, being hearing this, that they were actually encouraged, you were actually encouraging young boys to cut off their dicks, in other words, forgive me for my language. And I don't ask me what they wanted to do, or what was the thing behind it. I remember that, hearing that, forgive me for my language, I know it's very inappropriate language to use, but that's just putting it straight, and that's putting it very straight. And obviously thanks to God, the two teachers that were suspended for that and were kicked out, and God, I hope they're off in some other country and stay in some other country for influence and trend influence. I think it was actually told class, sorry, not told years, told class, and I think it was down in Cork or either Kerry, somewhere down there. And thankfully that was about 5-6 years ago. I remember hearing of that. It could be more. Actually, could be more. It could be 7 years ago now. But that's a long time ago. But again, this is the thing. This is what they're going to do. They're trying to influence young people, to this and that and the other. And obviously, some people might say it's good to be inclusive and to go down avenues and to debate these things. But again, as a young person, you're constantly developing. Your mind's constantly developing and everything. And it's too much information. Again, especially for people with special needs too. I feel for them, people with dyslexia and autism. They don't understand. They find it very hard to grip on life. I know myself when I was younger. It's very hard because I knew I was kind of different compared to everybody else. I knew I wasn't the same. Mixing in with people, I knew I wasn't the same. And to have that feeling too, and then having a bloody, God knows what, them teaching you about how to shove your dick into some godforsaken, I don't know what. But again, take for example that thing I just said. Imagine a young person, imagine a young child trying to fathom that and trying to process that, and then having a drag queen come in and read story, and then telling them how to throw code. Like this is what's happening. And then having these overly sexualized novels too. In national school we used to read a few novels. I don't remember them being too sexualized. But my national school was very Christian, thankfully. We did say a prayer. We did actually say, we were probably the only school in the country, we probably said our prayers. We were going home saying that we would get safe home. In the evening, we said it before our lunch, we said it in the morning before we started school. So it was a very Christian national school, and I was very thankful for that. That it wasn't any of this, I don't know what you would call this, far left maniacism. But again, I say to the people, if this is happening in your national school, secondary school, stand up to these teachers, stand up to the local ETB or whatever it is, or to your local minister or your local TD, go into them, tell them that you won't accept it. And again, no parent should accept this. And as I say, in secondary school they can learn the B's and the A's. They don't need to, like, what they're trying to bring in here is really just overly sexualized. Again, they're talking about national school sex education. They're probably, as soon as they get in the door, they're going to be teaching them sex education, because that's the way this country's gone. It's just fucking totally wrong. And forgive my language, but it's totally wrong what this country's proposing to do. And again, I do feel, for seeing every other country around the world doing this, I do feel for this country. That's what's coming down the line. And we see this with novels. Like, I don't know who in the Department of Education, because there's somebody in the local ETBs or in the schools or in the that says these novels are okay for young people to be reading for. And they do say, and again, I just take for example that one about that person being described being that person describing rape and everything like that. Take for example that. Which teacher, which brainiac said this was okay for people in, take for example, first year and maybe secondary school to read this? Now, there is one, and some people do say there's over globalization of violence. Now, we read The Boy in Striped Pyjamas in second year. We done actually a huge thing on that. And it wasn't overly sexualized. And I remember there was other novels we used that did say a lot of violence, that would mention a lot of violence. But that wasn't too bad compared to this. This is going above anything that should be taught in school. And whatever about violence, The Boy in Striped Pyjamas, talking about the Holocaust, talking about the Nazis, how they were, again, talking about these things. In this part of history, we do have to always keep history in our mind, because it always repeats itself if it's forgotten about. And I understand that aspect, and it's good to remember, it's good to hear about history and not have it closed away, which is good. But that's all I'm going to say in the subject. Again, I don't know, I find the article, I might link in the description if you can find it. So thank you everybody for watching, and bye.